My brother ruined my life by fabricating evidence of my affairs, but after 6 years the truth finally came out. My high school love, Rachel. Together we have four daughters, Ashley 18, Olivia 21. We fell in love when we were both 14 years old, during our freshman year. I can still clearly recall our English class when I first met her. I assisted her in picking up the books she had dropped. It was our reality, but it seemed like something from an adolescent film the first time they laid eyes on each other. My parents, Robert 68 and Pamela 66, fell in love with Rachel too. She was their unborn daughter. Mom would teach her our family dishes and invite her over for Sunday dinners. Even when they were first dating, Dad gave us relationship advice all the time and treated her like his own daughter. He would say things like, think before making big decisions, and communication is key. Our relationship was shaped by those statements for many years. This parting is made much more agonizing by the unique memories each of my girls has. Our oldest, Lauren, was my shadow when she was younger. In the park close to our house, I spent numerous weekends teaching her how to ride a bike. Like the older children, she was determined to learn without the use of training wheels. Her delighted smile brightened the entire neighborhood when she eventually succeeded, just as she had envisioned. She is now a prosperous lawyer. When Madison, our artistic soul, was 15, she converted our garage into her art studio. I constructed an easel and arranged her materials to help her set it up. That area became her haven after we transformed it over the course of a summer. Our living room is adorned with a family portrait she painted. It was her first significant composition, if it's still there, I wonder. The best part of my weekends was watching Olivia play soccer until I had to miss them all. I never missed a single one when my mother contacted me at work to tell me that Olivia had made the varsity team as a freshman. I could still hear her happy voice. Olivia learned how to play for me, and we practiced penalty kicks in the backyard for hours. At games, she constantly claimed that I was her lucky charm. My tiny coding partner was Ashley, my tech-savvy youngest child. When she was 10 years old, we worked together to build her first computer. We would work on basic games late into the night. Since she was so eager to learn programming, she came up with the concept for an app that would use puzzles to teach children math. When everything collapsed, we were halfway through the development process. Our first few years of marriage were both magical and difficult. During our senior year, we were both pleased and afraid to learn that Rachel was expecting Lauren. I chose to work at a nearby manufacturing company while attending night classes rather than enrolling in college right away. While raising Lauren, Rachel worked part-time to complete her degree. Despite barely making ends meet and living in a small one-bedroom apartment, we were content. We learned collaboration and resilience over those years. But my 43-year-old younger brother, James, was always a specter over our joy. I was too trusting to notice the signs properly, but they were there from the start. James would make excuses to be around us even in high school. He would offer to drop Rachel off at our favorite. I now understand that James had a pattern of compulsive behavior. He followed his middle school teacher to the grocery store and sent her letters since he was obsessed with her before Rachel. It was dismissed by our parents as a harmless crush. He developed an obsession with a girl in his high school class, making up intricate tales about their connection when they had hardly spoken. It was written off as teenage drama once more. When Rachel and I got engaged, it was the first big warning sign. James became furious rather than merely disapproving. When he arrived at Rachel's place of employment, he caused a commotion that nearly cost her her job. He was yelling that I had taken her away from him and that they were destined to be together. Rachel was afraid. She told me everything right away, and that's when I started thinking about severing my relationship with James. However, my parents stepped in. They persuaded us that James needed assistance rather than rejection. We attended family therapy sessions for months. James expressed regret, claimed to have changed, and seemed to accept our relationship, although I now question whether it was all part of his long-term plan. He even gave a heartfelt speech during our wedding. James became more and more involved in our life over time. He positioned himself as our children's favorite uncle, helped me land a job at his company, and started showing up at family gatherings all the time. He was especially close to Madison and Lauren, frequently bringing them out and purchasing them pricey presents. I assumed he was simply making amends for his previous actions by being a good uncle. In hindsight, I can see how he methodically gained the trust of each member of my family. He supported Rachel's professional networking, helped my parents with their money, and was always ready to provide a helping hand in contrast to my hectic schedule and frequent business travels. He positioned himself as the dependable, stable sibling I needed. The business travels were necessary to advance in my job, but James took advantage of me. Some of the things he would say to Rachel were, "Mike's always away, but I'm here if you need anything." While I was away, he offered to assist with school functions and home repairs. I was appreciative of his assistance at the time. I can now understand that it was all part of his deception. Everything broke apart 6 years ago. I had been at our company's West Coast office for a week on business, preparing a presentation for a big project that might get me promoted. I missed Rachel and the girls so much that I contacted her every night to tell her everything that had happened during the day. I also participated in video conferences with the girls, listening to Madison's most recent art project ideas and providing remote assistance with Ashley's math assignments. My whole family was in our living room when I got home. James was there, appearing serious, while Rachel and the girls were crying. Tension was pervasive in the air. Rachel exclaimed, "How could you do this to us?" with a look of fury in her eyes that I will never forget. James had meticulously planned his attack. He pulled out a folder that seemed to be unquestionable proof of my adultery, intimate text exchanges, hotel receipts, and even pictures of me entering a hotel with another woman were all there. He asserted that the woman was a co-worker who, feeling guilty, had told him everything. The images were modified with skill. Later, I found out that they were staged to appear suspicious and were taken at official business meetings. Although the texts were entirely false, they contained information about my travel and work schedule that could only have been known by someone with insider knowledge. James had made things appear genuine by using his position at our organization. I made a valiant effort to protect myself, but long before I entered that room, James had turned everyone against me. He had been subtly hinting at my odd behavior to Rachel for weeks. My daughters had been persuaded by him that I was behaving differently. He had even expressed his concern about my decisions to my parents. I'm still troubled by the nightmare of the next several hours. Lauren, who had always been my strongest supporter yet felt that she would never forgive me, hurled her house key at me. Even though Madison was crying so much that she was having trouble speaking, her words, "I hate you," were audible. My daughter Olivia, who used to race to me after every soccer match, was unable to even look at me. "Why did Daddy do this to us?" Ashley, who was only 12 at the time, turned to Rachel and questioned. The most agonizing response was probably from my parents. Dad, who had taught me everything I needed to know to be a decent spouse and father, and who had always been proud of me, looked at me with utter disgust. His statement, "No son of mine would do this to his family," is still ringing in my mind. "You would end this divorce quickly and amicably if you still had any dignity." That evening I was expelled with only a bag of clothing. In the weeks that followed I made frantic efforts to establish my innocence. I spent almost all of my savings on hiring 3 different private investigators. After weeks of searching for the supposed other woman, the first investigator found that she had moved to a different state. Despite identifying several discrepancies, the second investigator was unable to demonstrate that the hotel invoices were fakes. In fact, the third pie nearly discovered James's manipulation before abruptly and mysteriously abandoning the case. James had threatened his family. I found out later that the divorce process was harsh and swift. Rachel was furious and distraught, and didn't want to interact with me. My daughters blocked my social media accounts and phone number. I only made contact through attorneys. I lost everything in 6 months, including my work, most of my friends, my home, and my family. At the office, James had been deliberately spreading accusations that I had a history of having inappropriate connections with co-workers. The stigma followed me, and clients began asking not to work. Even though nothing was formal, I started over again after moving to a little apartment across town. The isolation was debilitating. Sometimes all I wanted was a glimpse of my girls, so I would sit in my car outside my former home. Every milestone I missed was like a stab to my heart. I couldn't get close, so I watched Lauren's law school graduation from the parking lot. I sent Madison an anonymous purchase of her favorite piece from her first art show. I cheered alone in my flat while watching Olivia's college soccer championships on the internet. I learned about Ashley's successes in the science fair from the local newspaper. However, nothing could have prepared me for Lauren's wedding. Agony. Through a social media post from a common acquaintance, I became aware of it. I lost my role and my moment when I saw James escorting my daughter down the aisle in the pictures. I was in a dark place all day, thinking about things I'm not proud of. At that point, I picked up my cat Max from the neighborhood shelter. To be honest, he saved my life more than once, and he needed someone just as much as I did. My only means of escape became work. I shifted departments, switched companies, and threw myself fully into my job. I received 2 promotions, but without my family to celebrate with, accomplishments felt meaningless. My background was unknown to the new employer, yet I was never able to build strong bonds with my coworkers. How do you justify not talking about your family, eating lunch by yourself, or going to office parties? Over the years, I made a few unsuccessful attempts at dating. I was never sure how to respond to the first question, which was always about family. How can you explain to someone that your children despise you, that your brother methodically ruined your life? Most first dates ended without a second date. Every holiday served as a reminder of my losses. Thanksgiving meant consuming just microwave meals. Christmas was spent drinking too much and viewing old home videos. My girls' and my own birthdays were the worst because I couldn't stand to see the unopened presents in my apartment. I continued to buy them presents each year and kept them in a storage unit. Then everything changed 3 days ago. An unidentified number called me. My mother was crying. Although she refused to provide anything over the phone, she said they had learned the truth about James's deceit. She pleaded with me to meet with them, stating that everyone wanted to make amends and was remorseful. Feeling numb, I hung up. 6 years. 6 years of loneliness, suffering, and lost memories. My daughters spent 6 years growing up without their father. James lived the life he had stolen from me for 6 years. That cannot be resolved by a simple apology. I've made contact with a legal practice that focuses on defamation and family law disputes. The attorney thinks we may have a good case, particularly if my family now has proof of James's dishonesty. Reconciliation is not something I'm interested in. Justice is what I desire. I want James to be held legally responsible for ruining my life. Some may believe that my family should forgive me and that I'm being too harsh. James didn't simply betray my confidence, though. My whole life was methodically ruined by him. He poisoned my girls against me, took away my fatherly position, and robbed me of years I will never get back. How can you forgive someone who denied you the opportunity to watch your kids grow up, who caused you to miss the wedding of your daughter, who deliberately and methodically turned your whole family against you? I'm meeting with the attorneys tomorrow to go over our alternatives. My mom asked for a meeting, but I haven't replied yet. Although I have mixed feelings about it, I would like to know how they found the truth. The harm has been done. I'll provide an update as soon as I learn more. I have to prioritize the legal issues and preserve my own emotional well-being throughout this time. Update 1: My parents just presented me with startling proof at my meeting with my legal team. These are the events of the past 2 days. It was eye-opening to meet with my lawyers. They clarified that based on the physical evidence, I could go after James for damages. However, I still don't know how this will end. It's been almost a week since I last wrote. It's difficult to find words for what has transpired, and even harder to express the emotions that have been churning inside me. Since I met with the lawyers, the reality of what's ahead has started to hit me, and I'm unsure if I'm ready for the path that lies ahead, but it's the only one left for me. The meeting with my legal team was like stepping into a cold, unfeeling world, a world of facts, paperwork, and cold logic. I had hoped that something, anything, would offer a spark of clarity, but instead I was hit with a wave of overwhelming confirmation. The evidence was clear. James had meticulously orchestrated the destruction of my life. It wasn't a moment of impulsive revenge or a single event that spiraled out of control. No, it was a calculated campaign of deceit that spanned years, a campaign that has cost me everything. I walked out of that meeting with a deep sense of emptiness. I had known deep down that James was behind the lies, but seeing it laid out in black and white felt like a blow to the chest. The attorney had gathered the physical evidence we needed: emails, text messages, and, most crucially, testimonies from people who had seen the extent of James's manipulations. There were also recordings of phone calls with my family, conversations in which he had expertly twisted the truth to turn them against me. I hadn't realized how deep his influence had run. There were moments during the meeting when I had to sit still and steady myself, trying to remain composed. The hardest part was hearing about the lengths James had gone to ensure that everything looked as real as possible. He had somehow managed to fabricate details about my work trips, even sending me on business travel with people I didn't even know. He created elaborate fictions about these supposed affairs, weaving them together with moments from my real life. It was staggering to see how someone could manipulate reality to such an extent. But the most painful part was hearing about my family's role in all of this. The betrayal cut deeper than anything I could have imagined. I had always believed in the strength of the bond I had with my parents and my daughters, but James had somehow convinced them all that I was a cheater, an adulterer. He planted seeds of doubt, watered them with lies, and watched them grow into a full-fledged forest of mistrust. The worst part: it wasn't just that they believed him, they actively helped him in his pursuit. They chose to trust him over me. It was like a dagger to my heart to hear that my parents had been complicit in my downfall. To hear that they had helped him gather evidence, had cheered him on while he tore our family apart. It felt like I had been living a lie all these years. My mother's tears when she finally admitted the truth were the hardest to bear. She had always been my biggest supporter, the one person who stood by me no matter what. But hearing her explain how James had manipulated her, how she had blindly followed his lies, felt like a cruel betrayal. She told me that she had no idea how deep James's obsession with me and Rachel had gone. She said she never realized how much he had been plotting until the truth finally surfaced. She cried as she told me how ashamed she felt. I wanted to scream at her, to tell her how much she had hurt me, how she had destroyed my life by standing by him. But I held back. I wasn't sure I had the strength to confront her yet. There's so much I want to say, but I don't know if I ever will. After the meeting with the lawyers, I felt like I had taken a step into a world I was never meant to be in. Everything felt like it was moving too fast, like I was being pulled along by forces beyond my control. It's hard to explain the weight of the situation. I had spent 6 years in isolation, 6 years battling the lies and the pain of being rejected by my family. And now, after all that time, I was faced with the possibility of revenge, justice. But at what cost? I've spent the last few days going over the evidence in my mind, trying to figure out what I want to do next. I want to take James down. I want him to pay for what he did to me, to my daughters, to my family. He needs to be held accountable for the damage he caused. But there's a part of me that is still clinging to the hope of reconciliation, even though I know it may never happen. I keep telling myself that I can't turn back now, that I can't go back to a life where James is still part of it. But I keep wondering if there's a part of me that wants to prove something to him, to myself. I don't know if I'll ever be able to let go of the idea of getting back everything that was taken from me. The girls have been silent. No one has reached out to me in any meaningful way, even though I know they know the truth now. I saw Lauren's post about her wedding. She looked so beautiful in her dress, so happy. And there was James standing beside her like a proud father. I couldn't help but feel a pang of jealousy, a deep ache in my chest. I should have been there. I should have been the one walking her down the aisle. I should have been the one giving her away to the man she chose to marry. But instead it was James, and I was just a shadow watching from a distance. It hurt more than I could put into words. I've been trying to keep my distance from my parents. My mother keeps calling, sending texts, asking for forgiveness. I don't know what to say to her. I don't know if I can ever forgive her for what she did. She took James's side over mine. She helped him destroy me. Can I forgive that? I'm not sure. There are days when I feel so angry that I can barely breathe. And then there are moments when I feel nothing at all, like I'm numb to everything. But I can't let this pain define me anymore. I can't let it rule my life. I'm not sure what the next step is, but I know it has to be mine. I can't let James or anyone else decide my fate. For now I'm focusing on what's next. The lawyers believe we have a strong case, and I'm starting to feel like maybe, just maybe, I can get justice. It won't bring back the years I lost, the moments I missed with my daughters, but it will bring some sense of closure, some small sense of victory. I'll never get back what was taken from me, but maybe I can stop James from doing the same to someone else. My thoughts are still all over the place. I'm not sure if I'll ever find peace again. I'm not sure if I'll ever be able to look at my daughters the same way. I miss them so much, but I don't know how to reach them now. I don't know if they'll ever forgive me for not being there when they needed me. And I don't know if I'll ever be able to forgive myself for not seeing the truth sooner. But I can't give up. I have to keep moving forward, even if I'm not sure where that will lead. I can't let this be the end of my story. I won't let James win. He's already stolen so much from me, but he won't take my future. That, at least, is mine to control. I don't know what's going to happen next. But I'll keep writing. This is the only way I know to make sense of all the chaos. Maybe in the future, when I look back at these words, they'll help. Maybe they'll be a reminder that even in the darkest moments, I fought for something, even if that something was just holding on to myself. I've been trying to keep busy, to distract myself from the thoughts that swirl in my head. I've been going to the gym more often, trying to regain some semblance of control over my body. When I first started this journey, I barely had the strength to move. But now at least I can feel the burn in my muscles, the rhythm of my heartbeat, as I push myself through the exhaustion. It doesn't erase the pain, but for a few hours a day, it's the only thing that feels real. It's the only thing that feels like progress. The girls, they're still distant. I keep telling myself I need to give them space, that this is part of their process too. But the silence between us is deafening. Every text I send, every call I make, goes unanswered. I don't know if they've been told everything. I don't know what they believe anymore, and maybe it's better that I don't know. If I let myself wonder what they think of me now, I'll never stop questioning everything about my life. How could they not see that I was being manipulated? How could they have let James poison their view of me so thoroughly? My mind tells me I should be patient, that one day when the dust settles they'll come to understand. But my heart is unsure. I can't escape the feeling that I may have lost them forever. I wish I could just talk to them. Not about what James did, not about the lies or the betrayal. I wish I could sit down with them and tell them how much I love them, how deeply I regret that they had to witness this mess. But every time I think about it, I stop myself. I'm not sure what I'm even asking for anymore. Forgiveness, closure, or just a glimmer of hope that they still see me as their father. I don't know if I can ever have that back. In the meantime, the legal battle rages on. I've been meeting with the lawyers regularly, but nothing feels as concrete as I want it to be. There are days when I feel like we are making progress, when I think we have a real chance of winning. And then there are days when it all feels like a game, a series of moves and counter moves, a chess match with no clear winner. I keep reminding myself that this is about justice, not revenge. But I'm not sure I believe that anymore. I know what James did to me. I know the pain he caused, the trust he shattered. And now I'm fighting back, not just for myself, but for every. But somewhere along the way, I've started to wonder if it's really about justice anymore. Maybe it's about proving that I'm not the person he made me out to be. Maybe it's about showing that I have the strength to stand up for myself, even when everyone else has turned their backs. I've been thinking a lot about the concept of revenge. There's this small, dark part of me that wants to see James suffer, that wants to see him brought to his knees. I've had dreams of confronting him, of throwing everything in his face, his lies, his manipulations, his betrayal. In those dreams, I'm in control, and it feels so satisfying. But then I wake up and the satisfaction quickly fades. I don't want to become consumed by that rage. I don't want to become someone who is defined by their need for vengeance. But it's hard not to feel it. It's hard not to want to see him pay for what he did. I'm still struggling to reconcile those two sides of me, the man who wants justice and the man who wants revenge. It's like they're constantly at war within me, and I'm not sure which side will win. I can't say I've figured it all out. Some days I wake up feeling like I'm on the verge of some kind of breakthrough, and other days I feel completely lost. There's a part of me that wants to just give in to the pain, to curl up in a ball and let it all wash over me. But then there's the other part of me, the part that won't let go, the part that refuses to let James dictate my life any longer. That part is the one that keeps pushing me forward, keeps pushing me to fight even when it feels like everything is stacked against me. Sometimes when I look back at the man I used to be, I barely recognize him. He was someone who believed in love, in family, in loyalty. He was someone who thought that no matter how bad things got. But now I'm not sure what I believe anymore. What I know is this: I'm not that person anymore. Maybe that's what James wanted all along, to break me down, to make me question everything I thought I knew about myself. But he didn't succeed. I might be different now, but I'm still here. And for better or worse, I'm still fighting. I'm still not sure what the future holds. Maybe I'll win the legal battle. Maybe I'll lose everything. Maybe my daughters will forgive me, or maybe I'll never hear from them again. But for the first time in a long time, I'm starting to feel like I can breathe again. I'm starting to feel like I'm in control of my life, and for now that's enough. I don't know where this journey is going. I don't know if there's a happy ending in sight. But I'm done being a victim. I'm done letting James and the world around me dictate who I am. I'm going to keep writing, keep pushing, keep moving forward, even when it feels impossible. Because in the end, the only thing I can control is my own story. And I'm not done telling it yet.